Hi, welcome back to the Launch Point Leader Podcast. My name's Lori.
And I'm Beau.
And we're so excited to be back with you for another week just to share a letter a listener has written in. You can always write us in at advice@launchpointleader.com to share your story. Our letter today says, Dear LaunchPoint, I'm currently leading a team of talented individuals who all work well together. But lately I've noticed that they often get distracted by one another. They have great chemistry, which I appreciate, but it's starting to affect our productivity. Conversations that start as work-related quickly turn into socializing, and while I don't want to stifle the positive relationships on the team, I need to find a way to balance collaboration with focus. So how can I create an environment where the team members can maintain their friendships without letting it become a distraction? I want to encourage more focused work time while still allowing space for their strong dynamics. Thanks for any tips you have for those in the situation, which I am aware overall is a great problem to have. Thanks for your time. Distracted discussions.
Yeah, to have that instead of people that can't wait to get out of there.
Right,
you know,
watching
every
the clock.
single day. That means you've created a really fun environment. One that I would probably like to be involved in. But I think that's an awesome problem to have. The first thing I would tell you is I think you would want to remind them or help them to remember the purpose for us being there is to accomplish these things that accomplish the mission of the company. Our camaraderie wouldn't exist if the company didn't exist. Like, that's how we got to be comrades in the first place, is because we worked at the same company. So let's not ignore the company that gave us the opportunity to have this great camaraderie. And you can have fun. Fun is, matter of fact, is one of my essentials in business. Is if you're not having fun, I don't think the company's going to be successful. But fun can never come at the expense of someone else or the company not achieving its purpose and its mission. So I think that's where I would start. I mean, again, it's a great problem to have. I would also just ask, what's the structure of the day? What does that look like? Are there certain tasks or objectives that have to be accomplished every single day? Are there checklists that have to be done? Are there deadlines for things to be done by? And if so, if those things are being met, if communication norms are being met, responses to email, voicemail, etc., if all that's being met, I don't think you have a problem. I think you've got an unbelievable company. But if any of those other things, so maybe that's where I would tell you to look first. If any of those other things are lacking, the day-to-day work that should be done, the deadlines that need to be hit, if they're being missed, that's when you point them back to the things that to let off with. And it's like, hey, we're having a lot of fun, we're good camaraderie, but it's at the expense of the company.
Right.
And if we continue that, we really won't have an effective company to work in to have this camaraderie in. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where I would to start. So,
yeah, I was thinking of when just reading through the letter and hearing you discuss like finding the root, because sometimes I feel like, luckily, having experienced a team kind of similar to what Distracted Discussions is talking about, and teams that aren't this way, sometimes during really high pressure times, meetings they just need those light moments, or sometimes you need to have those interactions just to let off that steam a little bit and get yourself out of your head. So maybe, you talked about productivity. Maybe you're going through a more difficult time and people are relying on each other, which shows they have trust with each other. So exactly what you said there at the end, it doesn't necessarily mean they've got bad intentions with that. They're just not paying attention to their work. Sometimes during a high pressure time, it feels really good just to have a few minutes in a meeting where you're just laughing about a situation that's happened or just being real and people with each other. And I think it shows a level of trust on your team that they can relate to each other in those ways. Now, could there be just times where we really are just getting distracted and not focusing? And, it did mention it's starting to affect productivity. It's exactly what you said. You need to look at what are your key metrics and things that they each individuals need to look for. And what are we missing? And if you're not missing anything, great. Maybe it's like we said, maybe it's a high pressure time, or you're just functioning really well and your team likes each other, which is amazing. That's what you want. I think that's all kind of what we strive for. We want a place where we can do work that matters with people that matter to us. And I think that's so important. Agreed.
Great point. And I think if it's truly a team that's great, they will come together and rally around the metrics, either being hit or not being hit. And as a leader, you've just got to focus them on those things.
Right. And it does take a refocus.
It does.
Maybe they have taken their eye off the prize a little bit. Maybe they've been together for a really long time, which to build this chemistry probably takes. you can get comfortable, you can get stagnant a little bit, and that's where you as the leader come in, and you're not necessarily creating new systems and doing that. You're the one keeping them focused on that end goal, where it can slip sometimes if you've been doing it for a long time.
I have a really good friend and mentor that has done business for a lot longer than I have, and one of his favorite sayings that I have learned over the years is he thinks one of his key jobs is to, quote, stir the chili.
Oh, chili specifically is interesting.
And I know, right? And so, and some of that is not necessarily when things are going bad, but when things are going really, really good. Part of his job as the leader, he has seen over time be effective, is to go in and just ask some off-the-wall questions or want to explore something in great detail that on the surface seems really fine. But all he's trying to do is kind of make people see things in a way that's underneath the surface level, and it kind of unearths and kind of bubbles some things to the top that might be overlooked if we're just, hey, everything's fine, everything's good, happy-go-lucky. So as the leader, you might want to go in and stir the chili a little bit, add a little spice to it.
I will ask, is this leader, are they very Southern?
They are very Southern.
It feels like a Southern phrase, stir the
Southern,
chili, rather than like stir the pot or something
very
like that.
Southern.
That's fun.
Very Southern.
But I think great, and a good way to keep like a pulse and metric and keep everybody else on the pulse, whereas they might not be thinking of that. They're focused on their area, their day-to-day, what's going well, and something maybe we don't always think of when things are going well. We only think of doing things like that when we're in a really bad spot. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're in a bad spot and you don't know it, but it means you're stirring the chili,
Absolutely.
Keeping things cooking.
I mean, I think you would agree. We've got one of the businesses that we're involved in, we've got a team that's just really solid right now.
Shout out. Hope you're listening.
A lot of fun. Probably one of the most enjoyable teams I've ever been a part of. And there are still times, and I actually think I'm coming up on one. So FYI, Lori, I think I'm coming up on where I'm going to have to stir the chili a little bit on a couple of things just to go, hey, is this really as good as we think it is? I know there's no red flags yet. I know the wheels aren't shaking yet, but is it really as good as we think it is? Having a great time doing it, getting great results. So I think it's still just helpful to incorporate into your business as a part of the leadership. Every so often, you need to dig a little bit deeper, whether it's stirring the chili or just going, let's do a deep dive on this central part of the business and go, is it really as good as what the results say it is? Or are there some things that we need to fine tune now and change or adjust before they bubble up to the surface? So it's something as simple as that can help refocus your team while you're having a good time.
Right.
But it can help focus them in on the right things to handle before they get to be a problem, get to come to a head.
Yeah, really good takeaway points here. You talked about, first, check your metrics. See if your perceived change in productivity is actually doing in productivity. Because I think leaders can be surprised sometimes on how when teams are really happy and working really well together, you've got time for that because they're more efficient in what they're doing in less amount of time. So check if perception and reality are matching there. Steer your team in the right direction. Maybe places you find there is some disconnect. Maybe some things are starting to slip. Wheels are shaking in a sense. Check that. And then don't be afraid to stir the chili. I think is a great way to go into that. I think I'll say that now. I'll incorporate that.
Highlight. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Just really good, solid takeaways there for distracted discussions and for other leaders that might be going through hopefully something similar. This is one, I'm not usually like, I hope everyone feels this way, but I do hope as a business owner or leader, you feel this at times where you do have a really great team and your issue is they like each other too much.
Cherish it because it's rare. It really is. And it's sometimes seasonal, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like necessarily fall to winter or whatever, but it might last for a few years. It might last for a decade. Gosh, if it lasts for a few years or more, you're blessed. Because it doesn't always stay the same because teams change, people change, life happens, business happens. So enjoy the moment that you're in, dig in a little deeper on those metrics, but embrace what you've got and enjoy it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for writing in. We appreciate just you being willing to share where you're at in your journey right now. And if you or anyone else out there has something you'd like to write into us, we would love to hear from you at advice@launchpointleader.com. Thank you.
Stir the chili.
Great.